Greenland, the largest island on our planet. Snow, glaciers and icebergs envelop this gigantic territory. It's a place where nature remains in its purest and most challenging form. Those who visit Greenland experience an almost mystical sensation of encountering a wild and largely uncharted world. Its name suggests green landscapes, but it's a realm of endless whiteness. The Greenland ice sheet is the second largest on Earth after Antarctica. It's a dense and towering mass with most of its bulk submerged. Around 80% of Greenland's surface is ice-covered. Much of the year, the ground remains frozen, cracking in summer before refreezing. Sections of this ice exceed 100,000 years in age. The cliffs are often blanketed with snow and ice. They provide habitat for seabirds like puffins and gannets. There are also a number of freshwater rivers and lakes, many fed by glacial melt. These features give rise to fjords, valleys, and other geological formations. Due to these harsh conditions, Greenland boasts a high concentration of unexplored and unclimbed peaks. Icebergs are a common sight in these landscapes. They can assume surreal shapes that defy imagination. Each is distinct, shaped by the conditions of its formation and melting. Most of the northern hemisphere's icebergs originate from these Greenland glaciers. Upon reaching the ocean, a glacier's front breaks off into massive pieces that fall into the water, giving birth to an iceberg. Some are colossal. The largest resemble small islands with flat tops and sides. Typically, the thicker they are, the longer they last. While waves speed up their melting, they drift at sea, carried by currents, collapsing, carving and melting gradually. And despite their size, what we see is just the tip of the iceberg. The majority of their mass remains submerged. When they melt, they release fresh water and nutrients into the ocean, vital for feeding phytoplankton, the base of the marine food chain. But they can last many years before completely melting. Some are carried by the North Atlantic currents, posing hazards to navigation. In this Arctic region, dog sleds have been a traditional mode of transport for centuries. The Greenland dog, the breed used, is strong and adapted to the cold environment. They work as a pack, establishing a hierarchy that maintains discipline. A typical team usually consists of 12 to 16 dogs, though the number can vary based on the load and distance to be covered. Sleds such as these can be employed in the Arctic setting for lengthy journeys, covering great distances. Traditionally, they have been used for hunting expeditions targeting seals and polar bears. The person steering the sled is called a musher, who uses specific commands to control the dogs. A musher must be adept at reading ice conditions to safely navigate frozen fjords and sea ice. A strong bond between the musher and the dogs is crucial for teamwork and survival. Taking care of sled dogs is a full-time job. They need to be fed, kept healthy and regularly trained. Yet snowmobiles have been gradually replacing dog sleds. These vehicles are well suited for Greenland's tough terrain, with wide skis for gliding over the snow. In winter, they are vital for linking remote communities that would otherwise be unreachable. Besides hunting and transporting people and goods, they are used for rescue operations. One of the animals one can spot in Greenlandic waters is the humpback whale. It's among the mammals that travel the longest distances during migration. They're drawn to these waters in summer when there's less ice and more food. Despite their large size, they are friendly creatures, interacting with other species. Humpback whales were hunted almost to extinction in the 20th century, yet international protection has aided their numbers to recover. For Greenland's indigenous peoples, whales have cultural and historical importance. They viewed them as spiritual beings, and hunting them was vital for survival. To the northeast lies the Greenland National Park, the world's largest protected area, a remote and challenging region to access. Across these vast expanses, the polar bear stands as the top predator. It inhabits the northern and northeastern part of the island along the coast where sea ice forms. A layer of fat and a thick coat insulate it from the icy Arctic temperatures. Its white fur helps it blend in with ice and snow, making it a stealthy hunter. Female polar bears usually give birth to 2 cubs in dens they dig themselves. In their early years, cubs learn from their mother how to survive and hunt. Inuit hunters possess extensive knowledge about polar bears and their behavior, assisting researchers in their studies. It's known that certain Greenlandic polar bear populations have been isolated for centuries, making them genetically unique. The muskox has been a resident of Greenland for thousands of years. They have one of the densest fur coats among land animals, and they shed their fur in summer to adapt to warmer temperatures. Arctic foxes are also incredibly resilient to these frigid temperatures. They possess an exceptional sense of hearing and smell, used to locate prey under the snow. Usually they are monogamous, with both parents assisting in caring for the young. Another creature able to withstand these harsh conditions year-round is the Arctic wolf. Their interaction with humans is limited as they inhabit very remote areas. Historically, they have been hunted, and currently the population is estimated to be only a few hundred individuals throughout the park. Among the birds, the Atlantic puffin stands out. Their primary diet consists of small fish. Often they can be seen carrying several at once in their beaks. They can reach high speeds due to their ability to flap their wings rapidly. Puffins nest in colonies on coastal cliffs or islands, where they dig burrows into the ground, typically returning to the same mate and nest each year. It's essential to mention the enigmatic Greenland shark found in the waters of the North Atlantic and Arctic around Greenland and Iceland. This shark is one of the largest, and some specimens are believed to live over 400 years. Being a slow swimmer, conserving energy is crucial for its survival. It's adapted to cold waters and can be found at great depths. Living in dark waters, it doesn't rely much on its sense of sight. It's a scavenger, but can also feed on fish and seals. Its meat contains toxins harmful to humans unless properly prepared. Life in Greenland unfolds amidst untouched nature, far from the noise and crowds of big cities. In recent decades, the human population has remained relatively stable. It boasts one of the lowest population densities worldwide. Due to the lack of connectivity between settlements, many communities are isolated. Life can be challenging, but Greenlanders have proven resilient and adaptive to these conditions. Greenland is located in the northeastern tip of North America. From space, it appears as an enormous white expanse, so large and reflective it can be clearly seen from Earth's orbit. The most populated settlements are on the west and south coasts of the island. However, others are located much farther north, well above the Arctic Circle. Ilulissat is among the settlements that attract the most visitors. It is the birthplace of Knut Rasmussen, one of the early explorers of polar regions. The climate is extreme, with long, cold winters and short, cool summers. From late May to late July, the sun never sets in Ilulissat, providing 24 hours of daylight. The local economy relies on tourism, fishing and hunting, with a focus on halibut, shrimp and seals. Life in Ilulissat is peaceful, yet somewhat isolated. There are no road connections to other settlements, with air or sea being the main modes of transportation. The region's most extraordinary sight is the Ilulissat Icefjord, a magical place boasting mesmerizing icy landscapes. The glacier that feeds it, Surmek, is one of the fastest-moving glaciers in the world. This causes the release of many icebergs and huge volumes of water. In fact, it's known as the birthplace of icebergs. North of Ilulissat lies the Glacier. It's renowned for the frequent ice carving from its front, which can cause tsunamis of varying sizes. The surface of this glacier is riddled with deep open crevasses. Some of the ice breaking off is thousands of years old, a remnant of the last ice age, serving as a frozen time capsule. The capital of Greenland and its most populated town is Nuuk. It's one of the most isolated capitals, yet it has everything the inhabitants need, including health centers, schools, supermarkets and hotels. One of the most distinctive features of Nuuk is its colorful wooden houses. These colors have a practical function tracing back to the colonial era in the 18th century. Since there were no numbers, colors were used to identify different places. Red was for trade places, green for radio communication. Nuuk has a more diverse population compared to other places in Greenland, with a mix of Inuit and outsiders. The majority of Greenland's population belongs to the Inuit ethnic group, who are Danish citizens. Within the Inuit, there are different groups, each with its own language, with a minority living in remote areas of the island. Today, most are speakers of Ilulissat or Greenlandic as well as Danish, tracing their lineage back to the first Inuits who arrived in Greenland. Greenlandic families often keep traditions alive. In many of them, Greenlandic is the primary language at home, and they pass on hunting and fishing practices to their children. But with modernization, both men and women have started to receive different types of education. Young people having access to the internet might start to appreciate modern lifestyles. The family structure is evolving. Before, families were larger with many relatives living together, but now families with just parents and children are more common. Traditionally, Inuit women were responsible for tasks like food preparation, making clothes, and childcare, while men engaged in hunting and fishing. Handmade fur clothing by women has been essential for survival in the Arctic climate. Nowadays, Inuit women may maintain these traditional roles, but have also expanded their roles in other sectors, such as healthcare, education, or politics. On the other hand, Inuit men are the ones who hunt and fish. Seal hunting has been a vital part of survival for centuries. It's consumed boiled, dried, or even raw. There's also whale hunting. A successful hunt is sometimes followed by celebrations and sharing of the catch. They are a food source for a significant portion of the population. Fenning is the process of removing the blubber from the whale, a skill passed down from generation to generation. Whale meat is used in traditional Greenlandic dishes. It can be served raw, smoked, or in stews. Dried fish is also a staple food. It's hung in dry and windy places for weeks or months, sometimes salted for better preservation. In northwest Greenland lies the big, yet sparsely populated Thule region, one of the world's northernmost permanent settlements. Nuuk is located in this region. Some of the Inuit living here lead a traditional life. They are among the last men dedicated solely to hunting and fishing, able to hunt seals, walruses, or narwhals from kayaks. But most families need at least one person earning money to afford electricity and other services. For enthusiasts of remote places, life on this island represents an ideal. It's living amidst pure nature, without the noise and pollution of big metropolises. Despite this, the reality is that there are severe issues here too. Greenland has one of the highest suicide rates in the world. The causes are not clear. It might be isolation, poverty, difficulty adapting to new lifestyles, loneliness, extreme cold for most of the year, or lack of sunlight. Insomnia might be another reason. In some Greenlandic towns, there are more suicides in the summer, when there is light for most of the 24 hours, disrupting sleep patterns. Another significant problem is the high alcohol consumption per person, which leads to family issues. In northern Greenland, winters are even longer than in the southwestern localities. The sea freezes over, becoming populated with icebergs. These are extremely challenging conditions from December to June. The southwest coast is more accessible, less prone to the dense sea ice that can block other parts of the island. But in the winter in the northern and eastern areas, navigation becomes difficult. Here, icebreakers are needed. They are essential to maintain navigation routes and ensure coastal communities can keep receiving supplies. This is the case for the Northeast National Park, home to various research stations. Icebreakers are used to sail through the ice to reach these areas. Even tourist cruise ships must face these conditions. Depending on the extent and thickness of the sea ice, the specific role of these ships can vary from one year to another. This geographic location, close to the Arctic Circle, presents unique challenges and requires specialized equipment and expertise to navigate safely. To the North Pole allows the beautiful northern lights to occur in Greenland. It's an extraordinary light show in clear winter skies. These are electrically charged particles from the sun entering Earth's atmosphere. Settlements on the east coast are a good place to witness it, yet it's also possible from Nuuk, Ilulissat, and other more populated settlements. Come summer and the midnight sun arrives, a natural phenomenon occurring within the Arctic Circle where the sun doesn't set below the horizon, creating a surreal and wondrous feeling. There are days when all 24 hours are in daylight. The further north you go, the more nights you have with light. Greenland is a nation, an autonomous territory within Denmark, but it's granted a significant degree of self-governance. Moreover, it's considered an overseas territory associated with the European Union. It has its parliament, known as the Inatsisartut, and government. having authority in various areas including education, health, environment, and natural resources. People born in Greenland are considered Danish citizens with the right to live and work in Denmark. Since Greenland is under the Danish constitution, Denmark retains control over certain government areas like foreign affairs, defence, and monetary policy. Greenland's legal system is based on the Danish civil law system, but has adapted to its nation's unique needs and conditions. Like in other world regions, laws reflect Greenlandic culture, and some are noteworthy. For instance, alcohol can only be bought during specific hours and not on certain holidays, aiming to combat its misuse. There are sled dog-only areas where owning other breeds isn't allowed. This helps preserve this vital local breed. Like Denmark, Greenland has a pre-approved name list for parents to name their children. If parents wish to pick a name outside this list, they need official approval. This protects children from unusual or offensive names. Owning real estate like houses and buildings is feasible, yet owning the land they sit on isn't. This follows the traditional Inuit approach based on the belief that land is communal. Fishing requires a license available for purchase, and it's expected to fish only what can be eaten. Polar bear hunting is regulated, only residents can hunt them. There are annual limits and hunters must report it to the authorities. Polar bear hunting is done for subsistence, that is, the animal's meat and other parts are used for food and materials. Culture is sports. The most practiced and followed is soccer, brought to Greenland by Danish settlers. Given the harsh climate, soccer fields are made of synthetic grass or sand rather than natural grass. With settlements along the coast, the playing fields are often complemented by breathtaking landscapes with icebergs. Greenlandic schools provide free and mandatory education with a system similar to the Danish one, focusing heavily on preserving the Inuit culture and language. The educational system is divided into preschool, primary, secondary, and higher education. Classes are taught in Greenlandic with Danish as a second language. After upper secondary school, one can opt to attend university. Ilulissat is the local name for the University of Greenland, located in Nuuk, where one can study management, literature, history, theology, among other subjects. For other university courses or specializations, Greenlandic youths often go to Denmark. Denmark also plays a crucial role in maintaining Greenland's public services. A significant portion of Greenland's annual income comes from Danish grants. Other revenues come from economic activities such as fishing, hunting, mining, hydroelectric power, and tourism. Greenland's history spans thousands of years, beginning with the Paleo-Eskimo peoples who arrived from Canada around 2500 BC. These groups survived by hunting seals and whales. Around the 10th century, Vikings from Scandinavia arrived in Greenland. Explorer Erik the Red is considered the first European settler, having been expelled from Iceland for murder. Erik the Red named the island Grönland, meaning Greenland, intending to attract more settlers. Over the following years, more Vikings arrived and settled on the southwest coast, peaking at just under 3,000 people. By the 15th century, these Viking settlements were abandoned, partly due to the Little Ice Age making the climate tougher and due to geographic, economic, and social isolation. In 1721, a mission from the Danish church led by Hans Egede arrived in Greenland, intending to re-evangelize where the Norse had vanished and the Inuit were the sole inhabitants. Denmark then established various colonies and trading posts on the island. Over the next centuries, Denmark strengthened its control. In 1953, Greenland became an integral territory of the Kingdom of Denmark, with representation in the Danish Parliament. Greenland's location in the North Atlantic gave it strategic importance during World War II. Although Denmark was occupied by Nazi Germany, Greenland remained free. The US and Greenland agreed that Americans would establish bases on the island to protect the Western Hemisphere. Thule Air Base, formerly known as Thule Air Base, is still active. It was vital during the Cold War as an observation and defense post. Of all US air bases, this is the closest to the North Pole. The interest of the US and other global powers like China in Greenland is partly due to its geographical position between North America and Europe, making it strategic for military purposes. On the other hand, Greenland is rich in minerals, including rare earths, iron, zinc and uranium, as well as oil and natural gas. The Arctic melt is making these resources more accessible. Rare earth elements are crucial for modern technologies and renewable energy applications, making them highly sought after globally. Moreover, the Arctic thaw is opening up new maritime routes, specifically the Northwest Passage through Canada and the Northern Sea route along Russia. Routes that could significantly reduce shipping times between Asia, Europe and North America. Religion in Greenland is predominantly Christian, specifically following the Evangelical Lutheran Church. Over time, since the arrival of the Norsemen, Christianity took root, and the Catholic Church established a diocese in Gardar in 1126. However, with Greenland's isolation and the disappearance of the Viking colony, the ecclesiastical structure collapsed. In the 18th century, with the arrival of Danish Lutheran missionaries, Christianity was reintroduced. Today, religion in Greenland is practiced by blending elements of Christianity with traditional indigenous beliefs and practices, with a strong respect for land and nature. Having explored the specifics of Greenland, the following will provide useful information for those wanting to travel. Firstly, what's necessary to stay safe? It's recommended to wear warm, waterproof clothing, mountain footwear, hats, sunglasses and gloves, both in summer and winter. In the summer, at least one warm jacket. In winter, layering is preferable, allowing one to adjust according to the climate. The outer layer should be waterproof and the inner layer should be warm. In summer, Arctic mosquitoes are abundant in some areas and can be bothersome. To avoid them, bring repellent or wear a net around your hat. Greenlandic dog puppies are very cute. However, it's wise to be cautious with the breed, especially the adults. Greenlanders often see dogs as work animals. Those that are well socialized and trained are friendly, yet those living in isolated settlements and unaccustomed to people might be aggressive. As a general rule, always ask the owner before touching a dog. Whenever venturing out of a settlement, it's essential to plan what to do and be accompanied by experienced guides. Exploring without knowledge can be dangerous. The weather is unpredictable and can change quickly. Considering there are no trees, one will be entirely exposed to wind in a storm, which can be very strong. During winter snowstorms, it's easy to lose one's bearings. If you decide to explore areas further out on your own, it's essential to have a GPS that can communicate your position to the rescue service. When kayaking, the same rule applies. Strong winds can arise suddenly. In such situations, it's advised to quickly seek shelter on the coast and have a GPS. Encountering a polar bear is unlikely, especially in summer, but caution is necessary. An attack could be fatal. The areas where sightings are more likely are in the north and east. Since supermarkets might lack certain products, it's recommended to bring medications and any other essential items. Never criticize the local way of life, including hunting and fishing, as this is how many Greenlanders subsist. To enter the territory, the same visa is required as for Denmark. There are two ways to get to Greenland, by boat or plane. The most common is by plane. Air Greenland, the national airline, flies from Denmark and Iceland. The busiest and largest airport is Ilulissat. There's no international ferry service, but one can take a cruise from places like Reykjavik, Iceland, or the Canadian Arctic, although this is less common, more expensive, and only available in summer and early fall. We conclude our journey through the iciest island on the planet, Greenland. May this journey have touched your soul and awakened your desire to explore. I hope you've enjoyed it. Until the next trip.